Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, you never know, it could happen. Hey, I am back. I had a mad case of the virus that shall not be named. It's been a huge resurgence this summer. I have learned after having been in bed for like 5 days straight. So anyway, we made it through. My voice might be still a little gone-ish, so I apologize for that. But I wanted to do news. I know I promised. I did a community post to let you know. That's why videos didn't kind of keep occurring last week and why we struggled at the beginning of this week. But I do have a review shot for Piranesi, and I do want to get that out, but I wanted to there's tons of news out that I just had to address, so let's jump right into it, okay? First and biggest thing, there's a couple bits of Malazan news. Not only, first of them is the broken binding, Malazan, Patrick Leo, the art director. So many great things involved with this, but they have announced, and there's going to be buying windows and all these things they've announced the whole thing of when to purchase, and I can put that all up. The Malazan books through the broken binding with these beautiful, beautiful covers. They're just breathtaking. They're so amazing. I love them each. They each kind of I think Gardens of the Moon might be my favorite though. That moon spawn is just so cool, and that's such an epic scene. But you also have just some amazing scenes following that, so I'm not to diminish the rest of them because I'm absolutely loving them so far. But they've already got that for those first 3 books. That's Gardens of the Moon, Deadhouse Gates, and Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson. Go check that out. Speaking of Steven Erikson, Erikson has got us some news here, and it's amazing. So, a couple things. Erikson and Malazan, there's a couple things going on here. First of all, he's got his 10-book main series. Then there's the Balcaline and Corbel Brooch kind of novellas that are kind of humorous side stories. And then he's got a couple major then trilogies. We're going to call them that for now. There's the Carcanis trilogy, which is essentially, and I haven't read this yet. I was kind of holding off until it was kind of more towards finished. Forge of Darkness, Fall of Light already have been released, and it's like essentially a prequel to the Malazan series. We can go with that. I think it's fair enough to say about the Tisti Andi. And then he's got his other trilogy again, putting that loosely for now, with following Carsa Orlong, right? And that's already released in 2021, though God is not willing. Apparently, and this is from the Wirt Zone, so thank you, the Wirt Zone, and also he links an interview that literally Steven Erikson is providing, and so I love how open Erikson always is, and he's willing to talk shop, I guess you could say. Apparently, the Carcanis trilogy wasn't selling as well, so he kind of pivoted. God is Not Willing, that came out then, kind of different focus. So apparently the God is Not Willing is not going to be a trilogy. It will be 4 books, tetralogy, as I've been told. No Life Forsaken, the sequel to the God is Not Willing, kind of has turned into 2 books worth. That's what he realized. So he's really close to essentially, and that's what he says in his interview, having pretty much 2 books pretty close in a row is what we'll see. Hopefully it's not a George R. Martin situation with A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons and how that was promised, but I doubt it. Erikson's usually been pretty good about his promises. So essentially it's 4 books. This second book became 2 books, and so now we've already got books 2 and 3 pretty much done. So that's really exciting news. Huge news, in fact. And then he states that his plan is then to go back to the Carcanis trilogy, finish Walk in Shadow, which is going to be the 3rd book in that trilogy, and then the 4th book and final book in the Witness trilogy, which is the Carsa Orlong trilogy of 4. Maybe longer, I don't know, maybe a trilogy of 5 like the Hitchhiker's Guide, who knows. And he's been pretty clear about, well, I guess the Witness trilogy doesn't have as much Carsa Orlong as fans might expect, to say the least. And he also has 2 additional Malazan novellas under contract, so I assume that's Balcaline and Corbel Brooch. The publishing houses have put No Life Forsaken, that's the sequel to The God is Not Willing in the Witness trilogy, so the book 2, at August 28th, 2025. So that's really, really good news. Anyway, very much looking forward to that. All right, that was a lot of Malazan news. Then we've got some more writing updates that are books that are almost complete but are not quite. The book that held her heart, Mark Lawrence, it's finished, and it'll be released in 2025. It will conclude the book that will not burn trilogy, which I've only heard good things about. And then he also put it on his update that he's going to write book 2 of the next trilogy. So I guess that's telling us that book 1's already written of the next trilogy. So that's pretty cool. Definitely can count on Mark Lawrence to be consistent, and I love it. I am definitely far behind, which I am. It's a terrible thing. I don't like it. Then Cradle news update from Will White. I just like to check every now and then. I didn't actually participate in the animation Kickstarter. It just wasn't something, I want tangible books in hand. I hope, all that animation goes well, but it just wasn't enough to fit into my budget. So one of the good things, though, is that Will White is working on his anthology. The anthology is essentially a bunch of short stories in the Cradle universe. He's been realizing as he's been working on the animation that he's had to answer all these questions. He's been deep in the Cradle world, so it's got him already jumping in, so that's really exciting. That will be called Threshold. At least that's the current title. Could be changed at any point. You never know. Also an update. This is just from me. Man, this is the longest delivery of, I think, any Kickstarter I've ever seen. Finally, the books are getting shipped out from the Kickstarter of books 4 through 6, the leather-bound ones. You almost forget that you even ordered it, to be honest, and you're like, is that part of it? I know Boiled Jellyfish warned me about this, and so now I'm like rethinking, because I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. We'll see when I get them. So I know I've become a little cynical here. All right, in big Brando Sando news, what would the world of news in fantasy literature be like without Brandon Sanderson news? Sometimes, every now and then, I don't include some, and I'm actually kind of like patting myself on the back for that. But not that I don't love him. It's just funny because sometimes it feels like that's all I report on. But Wind and Truth, as we all know, book 5 of the Stormlight archive will be released later this year. That's at least what it's looking like. He's been working hard on getting it done, getting the final version, everything in, edited, all this stuff. It looks to be released later this year, but the good news is it is done. It's just got to get edited and all that, so that's great. But a couple bits of news. He did kind of, in one of his Comic-Con kind of appearances, he did mention kind of, I've always wondered about this, and I'm glad he's probably answered this before, but I'm glad he addressed it. It's always been kind of told there's like 2 arcs to the Stormlight archive. Books 1 through 5 is kind of the first arc, and then books 6 through 10 is the second arc. He did mention, though, it's not like the Mistborn eras, like where they're completely kind of separate, stories. This is more like an anime arc. So I thought that was a good description of it, and that made sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. I think what it tells me is, you're going to have some things conclude and some, some good growth and everything, but it's, the real conclusions in book 10 of the whole thing, and that's really what we're going for. It's really the whole thing. It's still going to have a lot of your same characters, is what that tells me too, which is important. I was wondering. All right, then a couple of cover reveals, not from me, but from others that I wanted to mention, though. The Light of Casaban, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but Thomas Howard Riley. This is J. Caleb design, and it just looks so cool. I really like it. I think it's just kicked it out of the park. Thomas Howard Riley is the author of We Break Immortals, which has seen nothing but great reviews. So I wanted to make sure and mention that because it just it's good. It looks real good. Speaking of good looking covers, that's going to be Luke Schultz has got one. Eagles Fall, it's a Bonds of Kin novella. And I think kicked it out of there. Hit it out of the park. That's the idiom I was going for. Man, sometimes I like to mix them, and it doesn't go well, okay? All right, then final bit of of book news. I guess it's bookish related, not really sci-fi fantasy, but this was going around on the Twitters, on the X, and I couldn't resist talking about it because it's a bit of a, not that I'm not one that's done this myself, but it's definitely a clickbait title. So the title is Why Don't Straight Men Read Novels? And it's by Publishers Weekly, and they know how to publish things. Definitely, but the substance is less, I don't know, related to that. It really should, and I wondered, I honestly started looking up stats, should just say, why don't men read? Why don't people read in general? Because you can't find straight, gay, LGBT, anything. The rest of the article is just men don't really read fiction. They read nonfiction if they read anything, but mostly they're kind of taught to just focus on improving themselves by Andrew Tate. And literally you can see right off the title, it just, why don't straight men read novels? And then it immediately goes into, men often read nonfiction books in the name of self-improvement, but many are reluctant to pick up works of fiction. So it immediately abandons the whole premise from the subtitle, which is funny. Anyway, I know I'm seeing a lot of people kind of going, wait, what? I'm a straight man who reads or whatever. And I don't know if I think generally, obviously in my spheres, people read, whether they're whatever you want to, whatever your preferences are, people generally read. That's who I hang out with, right? We're going to find a bunch. If you look at statistics though, and I kind of tried to look at, it doesn't seem like it's changed much, where it's only a very small percentage of people after college have even read a book. Let alone as long as it's anything, frankly, it's as long as it's nonfiction or anything. At least people are reading, right? But there's a lot of just anecdotal evidence in here. But I do feel I will agree with the general premise that men don't read and women probably read more. It's kind of funny. Again, women, so in 2023, women made up 80% of the book buying market in the UK, US, and Canada, and accounted for 65% of all fiction purchases in the UK. So, but 65, that's still not, of all fiction purchases in the UK, maybe we've narrowed it down too much to this market, but that's still 35%. And I'm assuming that's a healthy amount that's male of the 35%. And so it's that's still a healthy amount, and it doesn't kind of jive with this 80% of the book buying market. I know there are different things that they're measuring. But then they say, case in point, 1.2 million people follow Hot Dudes Reading on Instagram, because there could be no other correlation for someone following that other than that they don't read or that they're amazed that I just am who are we, what is the case in point here? I'm not quite sure. Is it because they're saying that it's a rarity that men read? But this is specifically hot guys, but also that you're just kind of capturing reading out in the wild. I just, case in point, I'm sure it's just for jokes, but I'm your statistics are wanting in this article, okay? That's all I gotta say. They're not making your argument as well as you think they are. But again, generally, it should just say, men generally don't read as much, which again makes sense. We've got the height of all the movies and everything that you've ever been able to watch in your life right now, right? The access to all the movies, all the things, all the internet. There's so many things, not to mention just sports ball and you name it. It's pretty typical, and it is, I will say, and just again, my own anecdotal, acknowledging that evidence, is that I am one of the rare in my group that actually reads. It's whoa, you read that much. And I'm feeling here, especially as a booktuber, going, I read hardly anything compared to a lot of booktubers, and it's crazy, and you feel like you're never reading enough. But anyway, we shall not go into that. I just thought that was a funny article. Seems like mostly clickbait, just to be men don't read. And it's yeah, that's true. And again, I think a lot of newer fantasy may be tailored more toward women. I don't know. Is that what romantasy is tailored to? I don't know. I'm not super interested in it, but I know a lot of females, even just that I literally know in real life, that are reading it. Again, very anecdotal. Men are not reading really in general. So that I know either. So I can at least say, yeah, I can believe that part of it. So anyway, that's my long rambling thing to say. That was kind of an article that it doesn't say much. It doesn't say as much as you think it would. But to make that controversial of a statement, which really isn't that controversial, frankly. All right, then some quick media news. First things first is Halo canceled. I don't think anyone I don't know, is all that surprised or even that disappointed, frankly. I didn't hear a lot of people even care that much about it. I did see a lot of people frustrated with it too. I've heard the people that liked it. You know, it's like, if you kind of got over the fact that it's Halo and maybe just kind of treated it in your mind as just a sci-fi adventure kind of thing, it sounded good. The problem is just that it just kind of used Halo and only in all the worst ways, it seems like. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Then there's Terminator Zero, an animated Terminator, because that's what hasn't been explored yet. Next will be stop motion. We'll see how that goes. If there's one, it's like these James Cameron movies like Alien and Terminator. I just feel like, you know, they had a couple good runs, and it's like, could you just stop beating the dead horse? Because frankly, a lot of the plots are just like, oh, it's the same thing. It's like just the same thing over and over again. It's like Jurassic Park. Oh, somehow had to go back and there were the dinosaurs and then they're eating people again. It's crazy. So anyway, here we are again. But it does kind of look cool, I have to say. So we'll see how it goes. I have to reserve judgment. I try to be a judger, but I shouldn't be. So anyway, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Don't forget to check out the Kindle book ebook deals in the links down below. They do help the channel. They are affiliate, and I really appreciate it. And I always just like to track that because it is fun for me to find new deals. So anyway, check it out below. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next time. Bye.